Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on the video. So, as we all know, the newest banners with Wriothesley and Furina are coming out in a few days. I'm here today to give you the average man casual's view on how these characters fill out for your roster and if it's worth the pull on them. And we're going to look at these 4 stars and we're going to talk about the weapon banner. Let's get to it. Also apologize, I am recovering from pneumonia, so if I sound a little bit like poop, it's because I feel like poop. Wriothesley is a really sick looking cryo daddy. He's been on everyone's mind for a long time to come back for a rerun. I know there's a lot of people that are really excited about him. Honestly, he is a pretty good cryo DPS. Now, just please be aware that cryo DPSs are not exactly the best for the meta right now. But if you don't care about meta, Wriothesley, you can still take him into the Spiral Abyss. You're still going to do a lot of good damage for him. He's got a lot of decent teams. You could use him for mono cryo teams. You can use him for melt teams, which he will get really good numbers in. And then, of course, you could always do some like cool hyperphage thing with Dendro. I'm not sure if that's going to be the best for him, but one of the cool things about him, as you can see when he attacks, he like Falcon punches stuff. He's got really good combat feel and like, whew, look at that cake. You don't know what I'm saying? He's got a great story. People love him. I mean, look at him. He's like a cat boy. He does make himself lose HP when he attacks, and then he heals some when he bursts. But that makes him a perfect candidate for the Marchesa Hunter set, which is good because if you have Furina, which we'll talk about, she wants the Golden Troop set, you can hit that dungeon and you can be able to use both sets. And we can talk about later on. But the Hunter set can be very effective for anyone who wants to pair it with Furina as well as Wriothesley. So if you want a Cryo Daddy DPS, if you're cool with Cryo not necessarily being on top, but Snezhnaya is working its way through, so who knows, there might be some changes to Cryo or some buffing units, we're not sure. But he's a lot of fun. His damage is fairly good. I'll link the Gotcha Gamers video. He does a great damage showcase for Wriothesley, and Wriothesley is pretty free to play, so you have a lot of those good catalysts that you could put on him. He doesn't need his weapon. Now, I hardly ever talk about constellations for the 5 stars, but I think it's important to note Wriothesley C1 is a really good comfort. So with C1, he does more damage with his enhanced charge attacks, as you can see, and it reduces the cooldown of the effect, which in turn gives him more on-field or off-field time depending on your team rotations and makes him smoother and easier to play. Definitely a great pickup for those that want to go in a little bit deeper on what us Genshin players call vertical investment.
Ow, ow, ow! Let this be a lesson. The next time someone disables the security restrictions on a Gardamek without authorization, report it to me promptly. Yes, Your Grace.
Now, Furina is a big deal. Okay, I'm gonna keep it simple. Okay, her skill, which I will show on the screen here, of course, I did some videos of it earlier. It buffs characters that have more than 50% health. Now, as you can see, her characters, they will deal kind of randomized hydro damage. Okay, so the computer AI picks kind of like, oh, this is your enemy right now, and it throws a big water ball at them at kind of random intervals. And depending on how many characters you have in your party, it can go all the way from 110 damage percent increase to 140% damage increase, as long as those characters are above 50% HP. Once it goes down to 50% or below, that's when you start losing the damage buffs. Now her burst is crazy because it increases the damage done by all party members and increases the healing. However, you hear a lot of what's called fanfare stacks. And the fanfare stacks are basically just points of Furina's kit that recognizes how much everyone's HP is fluctuating. That's why it's really important for us Furina players to run a really strong healer. Oh my lord, I can't believe I forgot to say this in my initial recording. No pneumonia brain killing me today. If you hold Furina's charge attack, you will switch from different forms. Her pneuma and her ossia alignments, okay? So that sometimes comes in handy with the spiral abyss. Sometimes when you get into a tough spot in the spiral abyss and you're desperate, you can swap this side over, heal your units, and then you can swap back to the damage dealing side. And also, did I mention she can walk on water? Yeah, I think, yeah, I genuinely forget that. But, yeah, look at that. That's pretty cool. Alright. Now, Furina's kit, even though her burst is only 60, she still has a high energy requirement here, okay, gang? So you have to run a strong healer with Furina in order to keep those stacks of healing up. That way, Furina's kit has more to take and more points to add to the fanfare stacks, which you see on the corners of the screen here. One thing that Furina did, Furina really opened up the usage for healers again. So it turns your defense into more offense. Okay, Furina is an absolutely crazy god tier unit. She's probably in the running for like top 3 best units in the game, okay? But you have to also remember that her Hydro application is not the strongest. It's a little bit slower. So you have to be careful who you pair it with, where there are some characters like Hu Tao, for example. Furina's Hydro application is not strong enough to keep up with Hu Tao's Pyro application. Now, if you have someone who needs a little bit less Pyro application, or you throw in another water unit, then it's totally fine. But this is just something to keep in mind. Someone like Yelan or Xingqiu is going to have better Hydro application. However, if you do not have Furina and you want a crazy good unit, you should pick up Furina. She is immensely powerful. She will increase basically anyone's account worth significantly, okay? Jean really spiked in usage for Furina, which is why I'm showing Jean play. Notes from this, as you're watching, as you can tell, Jean's normal attack, without using Furina, you know, we have some 4Ks, some 6Ks, a little bit of 2Ks, and maybe close to 7K, okay? As we see the elemental skill here, her E, 39K, okay, cool, reasonable, whatever. And then her burst, there's 2 bursts here, 81K and then 66K. Now, when we put Furina on a team, that's where we start to see a pretty noticeable increase just right off the bat. These normal attacks, as you can see, instead of averaging, you know, 4 to 6, we have probably 5K, 7K, and then there's a few 8 and 9Ks in there. Our skill, as you can see, 44K, and then the burst, wowza, 101K. With the, okay, I'm not good at percentages, but as you can tell, I did 23K more damage on my burst while using Furina, okay? Now, there are plenty of other examples out there. You're more than welcome to look up the mathematician stuff, but at the end of the day, if you want an insanely strong buffing unit for your team to increase the strength of your account significantly, Furina is your go-to girl, okay? Now, one thing to keep in mind, we do have Xiaolonen coming up in a patch or 2, okay? So Xiaolonen is another god tier unit, probably tied amongst the top 3 for best characters in the game for a person's account. So let's see, who is it? Jello Impact released a video that I can link in the description where it goes over Furina versus Xiaolonen, and it helps people kind of decide what they want for their account, okay? So watch that if you're limited on resources and you only want to pick up one of those characters, okay? Let's talk about Furina's constellations. Now, I am typically not a vertical investment type of player. However, I have a guaranteed 50-50, and I'm at like 70 pity. So I'm actually going to be getting her C1. Her C1 increases the floor and increases the ceiling for her fanfare stacks. It takes it from, I think, a height of 300 and it increases it to 400. Yes, maximum fanfare 300. So her C1, it takes it to 400. And then her C2, so it further increases the damage capability for her fanfare stacks and her ability to deal damage. Her C1 and C2 is crazy. And in terms of her weapons and her signature weapon, it is more worth it to go for her C1 and her C2 before you get her weapon. If you want to get the drip, that's totally fine. It is better to get her constellations up to C2 first before you get her weapon. Her weapon's not even really that good. It looks pretty though. Let's talk about these 4 stars real quick. It's not going to take too long. We've talked about Chongyun before, but just to reiterate, he's kind of a meme character at this point. You can do some pretty strong melt damage, and I mean, I've even seen clips of people taking him into the Spiral Abyss and them doing significantly well with like a Rosaria, Zhengling, and like a Bennett team. His constellations, you're going to want as many as you can if you're going to run him as a DPS. He's one of the weird ones. He has an overriding elemental kit that doesn't really happen anymore, but he overrides other elements, which is why people don't really use him a ton. So he overrides a lot of things and can convert like normal attacks into cryo attacks. So he is a super weird niche character, but people have a lot of fun with them. People put him in team comps with Shinha. And so I will say his attacks have really good combat feel. Now I know I've said that word a lot, but as you can see here, I'm gonna run up on these guys real quick. Now, see, as you can see, boom, I'm doing cryo attacks with Diluc instead of my normal attacks. Now the melt's working just fine, I think. And then here we go. That looks good, am I right? So, Chongyun, I would much rather you all build Chongyun than build Mika, okay? Mika is not a good unit. He's not. They made him so he can help you increase normal attack speed, but it actually ends up being only like 1 or 2 extra attacks. And his kit is weird. Let me find some enemies here. You can't do headshots, so if you want to face a Ruin Guard with his kit, it instead finds the center and then does like an outward blast like that. He is, unfortunately, it feels like they intentionally messed his kit up. His healing is fine, but I think he should be one of the last characters any respecting account should build. Unless you just really love his aesthetic, you're more than welcome to check out guides on him. I don't even want to go into too much detail. He's not worth building for 99%. Even Eula teams, I wouldn't even use him on my Eula team, and I love my Eula, okay? Okay, I love Eula, and I wouldn't use him on a Eula team, ever. So we can talk about Charlotte, though. Charlotte has a great aesthetic. She's gorgeous. So, Charlotte, I absolutely love, I absolutely adore. She has high energy requirements, which is okay. Cool, I gotta make some of those gold books there. So, her kit, there's a lot of wiggle room. You can do a lot of 2-piece sets, which will do just fine. So, Charlotte's constellations, they're going to be the only ones that I really talk about. Chongyun's just deal with creating more swords, which creates more damage. Mika, you technically need a C6 to even make them viable for physical teams. So, I mean, just really, please don't build Mika. Every one of Charlotte's constellations here, so either they help her deal more damage and they help her heal. Or excuse me, they increase her attack, which helps heal. C1, bam. C2, bam. C4 actually helps her energy recharge. So I'm actually hoping, or excuse me, helps her energy regen from using her skill. So I'm hoping to pull one more Charlotte in this. That would be really cool. And of course, C6 is awesome. Deals even more cryo damage when you use her burst, and it heals more. So like, Charlotte is a great unit. Charlotte's the only one on this banner that I would recommend if y'all can find some room for. in the pools and you get lucky, she's worth building. So her burst is really the only one that matters, I believe. But she's very good and she's super cute. She's a lot of fun. Now, this weapon banner, as I've said, each unit, I think you should go towards at least C1 for Wriothesley. You should go to his C1 before you get Wriothesley's weapon. You should go to Furina's at least C2 before you get her weapon. Other than that, the Rust is barely used by anyone. The Favonius Sword's amazing, but don't wish on the weapon banner for Favonius Sword. You can pick it up when you're doing character banners. Dragon's Bane is fine, but again, Sacrificial Fragments, great catalyst. Sacrificial, great sword, also good. So like these are a lot of good 4-star weapons. And if you're gonna go for the drip and you need some of these really good weapons, then I do hope you get them. Rust is not used by anyone except Mia and like Fischl, but they're used in a way that don't make sense, so don't worry about it. If you're going for the drip, rock and roll, but you don't need them. You don't need these. Just hopefully you get lucky and you get a couple of these really good ones while you're wishing on the character banners, which, as we all know, I'm sure it definitely happens most of the time when the least amount of time we actually want it to happen. So I hope I covered everything here. Furina is an insanely complicated unit, and I'm not a number cruncher, so I just tried to be as honest as I could, and I also tried to make as much sense as I possibly could while recovering from flipping pneumonia. Alright, so thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great day. My voice is spent, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.